Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. From an engaging conversation with the Honourable Minister to talking about something that definitely is going to engage all of our attention. The International Peace Research Association will be hosting a conference right here in Trinidad and Tobago from the 17th to the 21st of May. And in studio with me this morning, we have two incredible professors, Professor Williams and Professor Meyer. Good morning to both of you and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you with us this morning and to talk about such an incredible feat, finally, I'll say finally, taking place in Trinidad and Tobago, because as we just discussed, this is the first time that it's happening in the Caribbean. What was the reason behind having it in the Caribbean?
So the International Peace Research Association, IPRA, has a long history of doing conferences. We're 75 years old. We have conferences every 2 years, somewhere in the world, different places. And we've had a strong history of having those conferences actually in the Global South. We've had many conferences in Africa, Latin America, Asia Pacific, long before other long-standing peace organizations had it. And one of the traditions has been that people who are the Secretary General, my title in the organization, would help host it. Now, I'm from the US,
Okay.
and it became clear to us, it became clear to me, that the US was not going to be a hospitable place to host a conference. Too many people, too many important, impactful scholars would not get the visas. And my friend, who is Trinidadian but also a professor in the US, could help arrange something where we could be located here in a place with the extraordinarily rich academic, activist, social change and peace traditions that Trinidad and Tobago have. And we could have a conference that could be truly Pan-American and Pan-Africanist.
That's beautiful to hear, and it's beautiful the consideration that's given as well, because many times we do sit in the Caribbean and we watch certain things and we can look back at our history and understand why you may not necessarily get access, because let's just be fair, Caribbean people, definitely, we're not blowing our own horn, but we're saying that we've impacted change, to say the least. We've seen it through history. So who is this conference for in particular? Professor.
Right. So I think this is one of the first IPRA conferences where they are foregrounding indigenous voices to this extent. Would you agree, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, we are really trying to move away from having it be centered on academic voices.
Right.
Those are clearly important. We are academics, but we also want to welcome youth into the frame. We want to welcome activists. We want to welcome cultural practitioners. Because if we care about a just and sustainable future, we need more diverse voices at the table, and not just purely academics and those who have those particular kinds of expertise. Because we believe that expertise and wisdom reside in many communities. So it's really for everyone.
That's so beautiful to hear as well, the inclusion, which is so important. And I couldn't agree with you more, and I know many of our viewers this morning can definitely say the same thing. Now let's talk about some of the themes that are going to be explored at the conference.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the themes are varied, as you can imagine. So peace and justice, those are polysemous terms. They mean many things to different kinds of people. And so therefore we have arranged a wide array of themes as an entry point. And so we're looking at gender-based violence, which is a big issue for the Caribbean. You're going to see climate change, right, on the program. We have restorative justice. We have indigenous ways of healing. So we're partnering with Reiki Home, which is a Japanese form of therapy and healing, and we're offering Reiki sessions. Yes.
Oh.
You should definitely pass by and get yourself a Reiki session.
And that actually dovetails into who we're inviting, because I think in some ways there are two types of people.
Right.
We have people from the world.
Yeah.
We have people coming in from every corner of the planet, major peace practitioners, and not just the fancy people who have fancy degrees and are leading departments at colleges. We have a recently elected secretary of our Asia Pacific unit, who's also a Maori elder.
Wonderful.
And so she's coming and being part of the keynoting of the first day, which is looking at indigenous resurgence. So on the global level, we're having all of these people, and we'll be meeting and talking as we do. But very much on the local level, here in Trinidad, here in Port of Spain, I think there's a sense of openness, yes, of this invitation. And if you want to come to hear one workshop or to get one Reiki session, come. Come, check it out, and then maybe get involved and active.
This is incredible. I mean, from the Reiki session, you saw my face go, let's do this. But also to hear about, focusing on the indigenous. We see what's going on in Suriname right now. There are protests going on, and that is just a a touch of what we are actually seeing being reported. So to see that there's going to be the conversation and the inclusion, this is something you need to come to Trinidad and Tobago. I'm definitely convincing you right now. If you're not convinced, you're going to hear more and you're going to be convinced right here on the Now Morning Show. So what about some of the highlights of the program? I know you just shared one with us, Professor, but share with us a few more.
Well, some of the highlights, I have to say, do involve some of the people who will be here. So actually, the major press officer of Maurice Bishop, looking at 40 years of the peaceful revolution in Grenada, and what that legacy has meant for the entire West Indies, is going to be one of our featured speakers.
Wow.
Mireille Fanon, the daughter of Frantz Fanon, who was so central to much of the French-speaking Caribbean, but also to the world, especially in the late 60s and 70s. And she's run the Frantz Fanon Foundation out of Paris. She'll be talking about social change and the ways in which social change movements have shifted in the last 20, 30, 40 years. Then we're going to have some highlights that, Hakeem, you were mentioning, like we're going to be at the Panyard and going to hear about some of the musical ways in which this country has taught about healing and change in a global context.
That's beautiful. Professor, can you tell us a bit more about what's going to happen at the Panyard?
Yes, and so not everything will be occurring at the Hilton Hotel, which is this main site for the conference, but we also wanted to involve community. So on Friday, which is open to the public, so folks, please come on out. It will be the Renegades Panyard, and it's about the intersection of the steel pan community and healing. So it'll be a panel. Hopefully we hear a little bit of pan playing as well too. And so that's on Friday. On Saturday, we'll be at Roots Yard, and that will be an international cultural celebration, also open to the public. I see your face lighting up. I really hope to see you at one of these events.
Yes.
And on Sunday, at Fronteman, we'll be having storytelling. And that's also open to the public. And so we really want to make this accessible and inclusive.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
some of the decision to go to Fronteman on Sunday was we wanted to close it on the land.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to open it with indigenous fire ceremonies. So the idea that the Hilton is a fine venue for some of this coming together, but it can't be the only or the main venue. We have to begin and end on the land and with the people.
Definitely a beautiful connection, because as you mentioned, the land is so important. So where can we get more information about this conference?
Sure.
The best place is online. We try to make it simple. International Peace Research Association spells out IPRA, I-P-R-A. So you just go to IPRA2023.org. IPRA2023.org.
And what about social media handles,
Yes, so
Professor?
it's pretty much the same for Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, if anybody else is still on LinkedIn. But IPRA2023 is our IG handle.
Wonderful. So I do have to ask this question. How does it feel to have it in the Caribbean? I mean, you explained the depth, the history behind the organization, and you being from Trinidad and Tobago, how does it feel to bring this home?
I'm going to speak on an emotional level. I was born and raised in Laventille with my granny and my mom in a 2-room apartment, outdoor toilet, outdoor kitchen. My granny has long passed. I hope my granny is proud of the mischief that I'm up to. Helping to bring a peace conference to the land that birthed me.
Definitely.
And so it's a pleasure to be part of these conversations here in Trinbago on this land and looking up and seeing the Laventille Hills in there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, as an international, we're nothing but excited to be here, and we're honored that you've welcomed us here in such a way. It seems like the right place as we're looking at a world that needs more integrated understandings about what multiple perspectives, multiple peoples can talk about, and also how these connections of culture and history can bring about new tomorrows. So it seems like we are coming to the right place, a time when we can talk about decolonization and peace, climate change and justice. We can talk about these things together in a way that also suggests all that Trinidad and Tobago represents to the world.
Definitely. And of course, seeing the inclusion is something that I know has brought a smile to my face, and for many who are watching who have always wondered how they could get involved in being a part of change. This is your opportunity. The International Peace Research Association Conference is taking place from the 17th of May to the 21st right here in Suite TNT. Thank you so much, Professor Williams. Thank you so much, Professor Meyer, for being with us this morning, and looking forward to seeing you over the weekend.
We'll look for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At a Reiki session.
Yes, Reiki session at Trinidad and Tobago. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up on the Now Morning Show that you do not want to miss.
Come again, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah,